have one question for you.
Yes.
You're not with the FBI anymore, right?
No, I'm
Okay.
retired at this
How
point.
many years were you with the FBI?
Just short of 26, 25 years, 8 months, all in New York City.
Cool. Here's my question. When I was indicted, I pulled out of my house. Now you would be staked out at you thought I was gonna be somewhere else. I think at a hotel somewhere, and so you had the FBI staked out of my house
Right.
and by some hotel, right? You were at the other locations, and then there was other people there. I pulled out of my house at my car, my daughter.
Yes.
Someone said, "Excuse me, hey, Mr. Belfort, we're from the FBI. You probably want to go back inside. We don't want to do this in front of your daughter." And I was like, wow, thank you. They let me go in. They didn't handcuff me. They let me go back inside. They said, please just bring your daughter upstairs. I did that. Came back. They said, thank you for that. They couldn't have been nicer and more respectful. No guns, vests, crazy shit. Why is it? Has something changed? Or, I mean, I know I'm not a violent guy, but there's a lot of non-violent people now that you hear about when they get raided by the FBI. Now, all of a sudden, there's this whole notion that it's with guns and vests. Yet I was treated with nothing but respect. And was that because of you, or is that actually the common practice at the FBI? What's that about?
Well, look, I think common sense has to go into every one of these arrests, right? You're a non-violent white-collar crime arrest. And I think probably the one you're referring to most is Roger Stone, right? We all watched
And Manafort, too, right?
And Manafort.
Yeah.
Well, Manafort's a little bit different because Manafort also involved a search warrant on his home, okay? But let's take the Roger Stone arrest, for example. Do I think that was a normal way of doing? No, complete overkill, unnecessary, way exceeded the minimum requirements and resources that needed for that arrest. That's a political showing of force there, and clearly leaked to CNN by people who were involved in it. I think that's a waste. I think they didn't need to do that. Roger Stone is even the kind of guy who could be called up to have him voluntarily surrender.
Yeah.
He's not going anywhere.
Right.
He knew he was under the microscope for a long time. I mean, I just think that was very embarrassing for the Bureau. If I were still in the Bureau at the time and I had to participate in that arrest, I would have been very embarrassed at the amount of resources used. Now, look, the people who pulled you aside, we had gotten intelligence that you were having one of your multi-level marketing meetings at another building. And we just thought at the end of that, we'll grab you there and we'll take you in. And so I just placed some people in your home in case you happened to get there before we got there. And they handled it properly. I mean, that's the key to the FBI, right? We do things in a respectful way. You know, I have a very good friend who works with the Canadians, the Royal Canadian Mounted Police. And he has a saying. He says, you know, look, it's our job to take away the guy's liberty, right, for committing the crimes. It's not our job to take away his dignity. So treat people with respect. Look, if in the process of us arresting you, you disrespect us, well, then we can always ratchet it up. We can always become ugly.
Right.
But why start out ugly?
Right.
You don't need to.
Got it.
You
Okay.
know?
So it's more political these days, right?
Yeah, it's far more political. Far more political these days.
We'll get to all that. Let's go back to the beginning here, to you and I, because
Sure.
everyone wants to know the story.
Yeah.
It's a great
I bet
story.
they do.
In the book, I nicknamed you OCD.
Yeah.
And the reason I named you OCD is because basically no one wanted my case. Like, you saw something was going on. You knew it, okay? And we'll get to that in a second. But I think how many prosecutors, U.S. attorneys, AUSAs did you go through and said, there's nothing there, I don't understand it, how many did you go through?
Well, look, we opened the case in mid to late 1992. You're already up and running since what, 1989?
Yeah,
You've got
end of 88,
You've got a significant head start. And what's interesting that the public doesn't know is when you started your business, we didn't do securities fraud cases. The biggest really threat that you faced was lawsuits from the SEC, which you were already facing, right? You were sued. But it was in early 1992 that the FBI finally put together a group of agents to do nothing but Wall Street related crimes.
My fucking luck. No.
Well, you're lucky, and you're one of the early cases that came out of,
It
out
was
of that
like
group.
inside training before that, right? That's what it was like.
Yeah, I mean, that was done by postal inspectors with Michael Milken and Drexel Burnham and Ivan Boesky and those guys. That was actually, and that was, I think, part of the thinking that the Bureau put into it, that the FBI put into it, and said, look, you know, this is something it has criminal statutes here. We ought to be working this kind of case. And then they put the group together to do that.